Hello, my name is Michael Lambert, and today I want to talk about a particular politician, just about, I think, the nastiest politician I have ever observed in British politics, and I've been following British politics all my life. A truly, truly awful, dreadful woman, and I'm talking, of course, about the Home Secretary. And I'm prompted to make this video in response to her response to what has been happening in Ukraine this week. I made a video about 6 months or so ago, I'll leave a link below, about her and about how awful she was, how she's been found guilty of bullying. In 3 different departments she was accused of bullying, and how she went off, when Boris Johnson was Foreign Secretary, she went off to Israel apparently on holiday, but she met with Benjamin Netanyahu and various other government officials, presumably on his behalf. Who knows? Nobody ever knows. Nobody has any idea what actually was going on, about how she's just thoroughly disliked everywhere she goes, and how she enjoys 100% confidence of the Prime Minister. Now, we've all seen the scenes this week. We've seen them day and night, how terrible scenes of what's been happening in Ukraine, and we've also seen how very generous and helpful so many nations have been in trying to help these refugees and trying to do everything possible for them and to make life as comfortable as possible under the circumstances, considering the terrors they're fleeing from. And I just wanted to suggest to you a picture. Supposing you're a family of 4, a husband, wife, and they've got 2 little children, maybe they're 5 and 7 years old, say, living in a flat in Kiev. And, you know that the Russians are coming. You've seen what they did in Grozny. You've seen what they did in Aleppo. You've heard all the explosions go off everywhere. And so you decide, husband and wife, that the wife will take the 2 children. Remember, any men between the ages of 18 and 60 are not allowed to leave Ukraine. So it's decided the wife and the 2 children will leave and try and get somewhere safe. They want to get perhaps to stay with a relative in England. Maybe they've got a sister, maybe she's got a sister or someone in England. But anyway, they want to get out of Ukraine. And so they gather together, they gather together what they can, what clothes they can carry in one bag. And she has to carry one child and the other one drag along behind. And they go to the station. There are thousands and thousands of people, and they're all nervous, they're all anxious, they're all worried about the people they left behind. They're all wondering whether they'll ever see their homes again. They're all wondering what's going to happen to all their possessions that they're leaving behind. And they go on this horrendous journey to the frontier, and they get to the frontier, and the children are cold, and they're hungry, and they're tired, and they're all worried. And they queue up for hours and hours, and it's snowing, and it's freezing cold, and they get through the frontier. Unfortunately, then they're welcomed by people who are generally being very charitable and very helpful. And people all over Europe are saying, yeah, you can come here, don't worry about visas, don't worry about anything at all, just make sure you register and all this stuff. You can stay here for a year or 2 years or 3 years, whatever. The main thing is try and give you some sort of show some compassion, try and make your terrible social circumstances feel a little bit better. Really do what we can to help. And it's been nice to see, it's been wonderful to see how much people have been helping and how much people have been determined to do whatever they can for these people. Except the UK. The UK's immediate response was, they can come here, but they need to, when they get across the frontier out of Ukraine, they need to go to a capital city, find a British embassy, and then they need to apply through the normal channels, and they then have to, presumably they would have to take a test to show they speak English, and they would presumably then have to take another test to say that they know who Henry VIII is and which motorway runs from London to York and all these sort of questions, to know that they know enough about the UK before they're fit to come and live here. And then presumably they'd have to wait around for a few weeks before they got a decision. Now, there was such an outcry at this that a day or 2 later, Patel went to Parliament and announced that 100,000 Ukrainians could come to the UK, provided they had close relatives already in the UK. But they still have to go through all the visa application and rigmarole. I'm not sure whether they dropped the English language or the the examination, a general knowledge test before coming. But anyway, she now said there was a great big uproar about that. And then a guy, to his eternal shame, a guy called Kevin Foster, who's a migrations minister, he said very helpfully that these people, if they wanted to, they could apply for visas, temporary work visas, to come and pick fruit. So there's our woman with her 2 little children and all the possessions she could carry in one bag, with a husband left back in the flat in Kiev, wondering where she's ever going to see him again. She's told, oh, you can come and apply for a visa to come and pick fruit in September. In the meantime, well, make other arrangements. And so the limit the next day was increased to 200,000 people. There are only 70,000 Ukrainians in the UK, but another 200,000 could come if they could prove that they were related to somebody already here. And again, they'd have to go through all the security checks and so on, and the biometrics and all the rest of it before they would come. And where that would happen, I have no idea, and how long that would take, I have no idea. Now, Patel, when asked about this, when asked about why we're being so tough, she said it was for security. Security. Because, as she explained, she said she's aware that there are extremists on the ground in Ukraine. And she believes that Putin, given the chance, would do violence on British soil. Those were the 2 expressions she gave. So these women with children, don't forget there are no men because men can't come, women with children who are absolutely desperate, couldn't come here without all these checks. Initially they couldn't come here at all, could come without all these checks because they might be coming to the UK to bomb us or as spies. And that's what's anti-security, isn't it? You're looking out for spies and bombers. So these poor, miserable, wretched, sad, worried, frightened people couldn't come here because they might be spies and they might be going to let off bombs. And you think, what is in the mind of somebody who could actually utter that, can say that, can be so determined to keep people out? And I just thought how cruel, how vindictive, how sadistic, how horrible. This is a woman, this Home Secretary, whose first reaction to any problem, any issue at all, is punishment. How can I add punishment to it? And how can I restrict people's rights? Do you know, in Russia, if you demonstrate and you're arrested, you can go to prison for up to 7 years. As a result of the bill that's just going through, she's been pushing it through. She's very proud of it, the bill, the police court censoring, whatever it is, bill. Punishment here is up to 10 years. We are bringing in harsher punishments for demonstrating here than they have in Russia. Thanks to this woman. And she's very proud of it. Very proud of it. She wants to bring back hanging. She just is so unpleasant, so awful, so dreadful woman. She's ignorant, she's uneducated, she's just awful woman. And her whole passion in life is making life difficult for anybody who wants to come and work in the UK. Now, the implementation of legislation regarding control of immigrants and so on is quite appalling. It's incompetent, it's inefficient, because she concentrates all her time on stopping people coming here. When they get here, she spends time trying to see if she can send them to what she wants to send them to Rwanda, to prison colonies there, and then she wants to send them to, I think, Ascension Island. She wants to put them in prison. She just wants to punish them for coming here. And of course, the stupidity of all this is that we are short of workers. We're going to need more workers. And as I'm going to tell you in a moment, we're going to have to start getting workers from all over the world to replace those that we've sent home as a result of Brexit. So I want to tell you three stories, and they all illustrate this, my contention at any rate, that immigration controls, once people are here, are just, well, they don't, I mean, they're just hopeless. I have a friend, somebody I know very well indeed, who works for one of these delivery companies delivering food, you know, sort of pizzas and stuff on the back of the bike. And a few months ago, 3 new guys turned up to work for this company, and they're all from the Philippines, newly arrived in the UK. They're actually quite well qualified. One of them's a structural engineer, another one's an architect, and so on. But they can't get jobs in their, well, they haven't yet managed to get jobs in their fields. So they're going around on the scooters delivering food. Now, these 3 guys have all been granted British passports or British nationality. And they came with them, they brought with them 3 wives, and they brought, I think between them they had either 9 or 10 children. So that was 9 children, 6 adults, all came to the UK, all become British. The children will require schooling, they'll use the National Health Service, all the other services that we provide. Obviously, with young children like that, they're going to be a negative cost to the economy over the time until the children are grown up and working. But anyway, there's an influx there of, as I say, 9 children, 6 adults, 15 people come to the UK. The reason they've all been able to come here, the reason they're all going to get British passports if they haven't already got them, I know it's in the process, the reason is because the 3 wives are nurses and they were recruited in the Philippines to come to the UK. Condition of coming is they could bring their family with them. So what we're doing now, I mean, they will be replacing nurses who probably previously came from Bulgaria or Romania or maybe from France or Spain, who knows where, but they would have come from the EU before, because we've sent all these people away from all these EU people, sent them all away, so we need to replace them. So what is going to happen is that we're going to go around the world to these poorer countries, places like India and Pakistan and Bangladesh and Nigeria, and we're going to be recruiting doctors and nurses, probably going to be recruiting people to work in the hospitality and in the care sector and all the rest of it, recruiting people who are going to come, and the condition of them coming is they want to bring their families with them, and they'll all come in. A massive people are coming from all over the world to replace all these terrible Europeans who we managed to get rid of after the nightmare of being part of the EU for 45 years. And this just exemplifies the absolute madness of Brexit. Now, the second story I wanted to tell you was concerning money launderers. Now, I keep saying this, I know, but it's taking a long time, and when I do this video, you will understand why it's taken so long, because it's quite important, and we have to do all sorts of legal checks and so on, because it's quite a big story. The second story I'm telling you now concerns money launderers. Now, a lot of people from all over the world come to the UK for money laundering, and they get the golden visa, they pay their 2 million or whatever it is. I mean, I know the governor put a stop to that, but I've no doubt they'll find ways around it. But anyway, they come to the UK and they set up businesses. And a lot of them have found, I mean, I know this for sure, and I've looked into this in some detail, they find that it's really not necessary to pay business taxes in the UK. You can avoid VAT, you can avoid corporation tax, you can avoid PAY and NHI. You just avoid any taxes. It's very, very, very easy. And so they learn how to do it. So not only are they money laundering, but they're also evading all taxes. Now, one of these firms that I know of, they had a number of branches, a part of huge group of companies, all money laundering. And they were employing 4 illegal immigrants, or people who weren't entitled to work in the UK. Now, one day the immigration turned up, and they all turned up, you know, the team of them with their blue vests on with the immigration written all over the back of it, and they swarmed in on this business. As it happened, of the 4 illegal immigrants this firm was employing, only 2 were working that day. And so the 2 were taken out and told they shouldn't be working, took all their details and never work again, all the rest of it. You cannot work whilst, whatever. I think one of them was a student and the other had an application pending or whatever, but they weren't entitled to work. And the firm was fined £10,000 for each of these 2 people. They fined £20,000. Now, if you're laundering money, £20,000 is nothing. It's nothing. I mean, they'll have saved much more than 20,000 in taxes they're evading anyway. But anyway, they paid the £20,000, that was that. But the interesting thing about this story is that one of the 2 individuals who were found to be working there, and they shouldn't have been, was re-employed the next day at another branch belonging to the same company, same business. The other one was employed at another branch about 2 weeks later, and they're both still there. They are both still there. This is 2 or 3 years ago, 2 years ago. In other words, they don't take any notice. Come here, set up a business, evade all the taxes there are. The authorities don't want to know. HMRC don't want to know, as you'll find out in this forthcoming video. No one wants to know. No doubt they're all under pressure. No doubt they're all overworked. But it is just so easy. And of course, the Home Office and immigration is so lax. I mean, these 4 people working, why were they not checked up on? How were they allowed to work? And not only that, there is a point here. If you're seeking asylum here and you're waiting and you're not allowed to work, what do you live on? How are you supposed to survive? And sometimes you wait quite a long time for a response from the Home Office. Now, I know somebody, I know him very well. Really, really, really nice guy, lovely guy. He comes from a country somewhere, let's say, between Egypt and China. In other words, he's, I'm not going to say anything that might in any way identify him. He came here to go to university. He studied for 3 years and he got his degree. And after he'd qualified, he applied for asylum here. He applied for asylum on the grounds that his father had been involved in opposition politics in his home country, and I think he'd possibly been to prison. He's since died. But the guy was slightly concerned about going back, but he says himself, it wasn't really, he didn't really think he was going to be shot or put in prison when he got home, but he just, frankly, rather stay here. But he did say at all times, if they tell me to go, I'll go. He said, I'm quite ready to go home. So when he applied for asylum, he had to go down to Croydon, which is the sort of immigration centre for the Home Office. And he had an interview, and they said they'd let him know very shortly as to whether or not he could stay. In the meantime, he needed to go to Croydon every 2 weeks to sign in. And so he went every 2 weeks down to sign in. And he waited, and he waited, and he waited. And 5 years later, he was invited to go for an interview. But the interview was not in Croydon, it was in Liverpool. So he had to get up to Liverpool for an interview, which he did, and came back again. Now, throughout this time, from the very first applied 5 years earlier, he'd been working full-time for cash because he wasn't allowed to work. Nobody said, how are you surviving? Have you got any money? Let's see your bank account. No. Let him go. And there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people doing the same thing, waiting for an application, a response from the Home Office, and in the meantime, in order to survive, working. So after 5 years, he'd had an interview in Liverpool. And then he waited, and he waited, and he waited. 2 years later, he's asked to go for another interview. So he goes up to Liverpool again. Quite why they should send someone all the way to Liverpool, who knows? So he goes to Liverpool, another interview, comes back, nothing. Then one day, about 2 years later, not long ago, 6 months ago or so, he went down to Croydon and they said, oh, we're arresting you, we're deporting you. And so they put him in a detention centre out at Heathrow Airport. Now, in the meantime, he's got himself a flat, he's earning plenty of money, he's got a flat and he's got his own car and all the rest of it. So they took him out to Heathrow and they stuck him there, and he met a few people there, and they said, oh, you've got to get a solicitor, apply for, apply for a solicitor to help you. So the solicitor applied, and hey presto, he's let out again. He's now back working, earning money, not paying any tax. So for 10 years, this guy has been waiting for the Home Office to make up their minds whether or not he should go home. And as he said right from the start, has always said, if they tell me to go, I'll go. And all that time he's earning money, all that time he's not paying tax, he's not paying any PO, he has to survive. What is he supposed to do? Sit in a park bench, sleep in the park? He has to survive. And there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people like this, all under Priti Patel, who's spending all her time trying to punish people who try and get here, trying to stop people coming. So she can say to Mr. and Mrs. Bullington Smith, who live in Leamington Spa, who always vote Conservative and are great Conservative supporters, and so she can say to the RG, I'm tough on immigration. I'm getting figures down. And that's all that matters to her, getting immigration figures down. What effect it has on the economy about not having enough people here? Because as I said just now, we are going to need people. There's no question whatsoever. We do not have enough people. We are a shrinking population anyway. We are going to need people to do all the jobs that we don't want to do and that there aren't people to do now. You know, Brexit and COVID and now, of course, Ukraine, all these things have kind of put a fog over what's really going on in the economy. And it's absolutely clear that things are not really in control. And that brings me on to the point I'd like to finish with, really, which is this question of the oligarchs' money. All over Europe, they're seizing assets now from oligarchs. But here we're not. Here we give them 30 days to get all their stuff sold, get their money back, transfer all their stuff out of the UK. And the reason why is very simple, because there's a whole list. You'll see it, as I saw it on Twitter this morning, a whole list of 30, 40 MPs that all take money from Russians. And so what happens? You're an MP and some Russian comes along and says, I'll give you 10 grand. Well, you're kind of in debt to him then. And so next time you have a party or a function, you invite him along because he gave you £10,000, didn't you? And you become a mate. And you think this oligarch, this rich guy, you think he's your mate. He's not. He's paying for influence. And so when it comes to, like last week, it's suddenly decided we've got to freeze the assets of all these guys, all the MPs think, well, I can't really do that. You know, I can't support that. He's my friend, you know, he's giving me all this money. This is a great reluctance to do anything. And then you have to ask about Boris Johnson. I mean, why is he so reluctant to take action against? I mean, how many oligarchs have we sanctioned? Hardly any. What assets have we seized? Oh, they'll say, oh, it'll take too long. It'll take too long, 8 months. So give them 90 days or 30 days or whatever it is in order to start legal proceedings. And you start to wonder, do they have some compromat? Why is it that, unlike so many other countries, we are so reluctant to move on these oligarchs and to seize all this ill-gotten wealth? It'll be interesting to see what happens in the next few weeks, actually. But I think there's a lot more going to come out about all this dirty money and who's involved and who's actually taken money. And I've no doubt that there are plenty of oligarchs, plenty of people who've given money to Tories who, if they are chucked out, if their assets are seized, will probably open up and probably tell us a lot more than the politicians involved would like us to know. But anyway, that's all I'm going to say for today. If you watched this far, thank you very much indeed. If you wouldn't mind liking, I would appreciate it. And if you haven't already subscribed, if you would subscribe. And I promise you that in due course, my video on money laundering and tax evasion by foreigners is going to come out, and it will be very, very shocking, I promise you. And so for now, I'll say thank you for watching, and until next time, bye-bye.